Hello Pokemon trainers, this is GatorEX, and show of hands, who actually wants to go back to Kalos? Actually, you know what, leave a comment down below. Do you want to go back to Kalos? And also while you're down there, leave a like, because today we're going to be talking about Kalos. Now there have been quite a few theories and speculations and for the most part just opinions saying that, hey, why shouldn't we be able to go back to Kalos in Pokemon Sun and Moon? Now, not that I'm on the fence about this, but for the most part, my thoughts are that I don't think we're going to be able to go back to Kalos in Pokemon Sun and Moon. Now, it would be relatively ideal because if you think about it, Kalos didn't feel like a full region. In one way and in another. The game definitely, I will say, is short, but Kalos itself did feel pretty big and pretty full. Now, there were a few theories going around. This was before, Sun and Moon was actually announced. There were some theories saying, what if the next game is a sequel? What if we get Gen 6.5 and we get to go to Southern Kalos? Now, I really did not agree with those. Like, right now, my thoughts on Kalos is, it's done, it was fun, we got the games were pretty good, the anime, the toys, I don't know, like Kalos, Generation 6 in general, I feel like it was a huge revival for Pokemon and a big step, these were the first games on the 3DS and having updated graphics, introducing new things like Mega Evolutions. I mean, I feel like a relatively short story, for some people, it not feeling like a complete generation, and of course the Pokédex being very short, in a way I feel that's excusable because they were definitely, focusing on, alright, we got to step it up, we got to have a more intense story, we got to make sure the graphics are good, we got to make sure we introduce new Pokemon as well as this Mega Evolution. And as far as, the Pokédex not feeling big enough, well, we're at, what, 721 Pokemon now? I'm probably mistaken. It's probably 723, and not including Sun and Moon Pokemon, but we are over 700 Pokemon now. I really don't think that from now on the games are going to be able to introduce, a few hundred Pokemon here and there. I think we're only going to get maybe like, well, I don't even know how many were in Kalos, but I feel like that's going to be the norm from now on. And Sun and Moon, I'm not expecting a whole lot of brand new Pokemon because, yes, Pokemon is 20 years old, and not saying that they're running out of ideas, but because, that's a really poor excuse to say they're running out of ideas, and that's why we're not getting a lot of new Pokemon, but more than 700, that is a lot of Pokemon. And I feel like a lot of the opinions saying, hey, we should go back to Kalos, in a way I feel like that's a bit, not a lazy idea, but for the most part, I feel like Kalos is done. It's been, 3 years since Pokemon X and Y. That sort of thing really just doesn't happen. And I mean, unless it's a direct game, Like, the big example is Pokemon Gold and Silver in relation to Red and Blue. Now, I forget the exact time. You know what? It was probably about 4 or 5 years in between, give or take. But, Gold was meant to be, in a way, a direct sequel to Red and Blue. I don't feel like Sun and Moon is going to be a direct sequel to X and Y, just because we did have the cut in between Omega Ruby, Alpha Sapphire, and there was a lot put into that. A lot of time, a lot of resources. Even though it was a remake of a game, remake, there was still a lot put into it. And I feel like if they really wanted to make a direct sequel to Kalos, they would have done it, and it would have been. They would have just called it X2, Y2, or they would have just called it Z. And again, I'm not saying that anybody who thinks that going back to Kalos is a bad idea, because I just did a debunking video where I called out another PokeTuber, which, by the way, you should definitely check that out. The annotation is right there, and it's going to be linked, and it's like recommended right now, but shameless plug. When you look at the Alola map, it does feel small just because it's split up between islands, but when you really look at it and you really think about it, you see, oh yes, there's that weird man-made island, there's this little thing right by the island on the left, there seems to be a hidden island in the clouds, which of course, the speculation is growing for that. Alola feels big enough, at least in my personal opinion. Another big thing is that with Gold and Silver in relation to Red and Blue, the geographical locations that those were based upon were literally right next to each other. Now, obviously the Pokemon world doesn't have the same geography as we do, but a trip from Hawaii to France isn't something you can exactly call up Mr. Briny to do. Anchors away, Pico, we're going to France! Hey. You know what, never tell anyone I did that. I think the biggest reason that people are saying we should go back to Kalos is because it feels like there are so many unanswered questions. But it seems like in Sun and Moon some of those are going to be answered because we're getting the Zygarde forms, we're getting Magearna, which Magearna doesn't exactly have a connection to Kalos, but in a way it does because it has the connection to Azoth, which the theories, of course, for that are still growing and here and there. And then there's also AZ's Floette, which we don't even know if that's actually going to be in distribution or anything because Pokemon has simply not acknowledged that. I mean, Volcanion is just now being acknowledged, getting a movie, and going to be distributed, of course, when that movie comes out. But what about AZ's Floette? Now, as far as all of that goes, they definitely are building up to something because a lot of information was dumped on us about Azoth in Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. So something definitely is being built up to, and I feel like in Sun and Moon it's going to be answered. But the question then becomes, is that answer going to be found in Kalos? Now, I feel like maybe there's going to be some extra thing that we're going to be shown, we're going to be given, but whether it actually connects to Kalos and actually is going to be physically in Kalos or Southern Kalos or whatever, like a lot of that speculation was, that's the big question. Now, obviously, I'm not saying that's impossible because Sun and Moon is the biggest thing ever that Pokemon has done, pretty much. Well, besides, you know, the first stuff and here and there, but it is definitely possible, and I'll go ahead and eat my words if that's true, but for the most part, I don't think that that's going to happen. I feel like we're going to stay in Alola, and somehow our questions are going to be answered in Alola. I mean, the Delta episode in Omega Ruby Alpha Sapphire, that was all contained within Hoenn, and in a way that felt small, but we still got a huge amount of lore and story, and in a way gameplay. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this just brief little unscripted, not rant, but just kind of talk about whether we'll be returning to Kalos or not. Again, everything's still up in the air, and we're going to have to wait till November to find out exactly. So stick around until then. Make sure you subscribe. There's going to be lots of stuff coming up. Hopefully, I can get the next possible evolutions video up. This has just been a crazy week, and I haven't had time to actually design those, even though they're not going to turn out amazing once they're done. Also, let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. Do you actually want to go back to Kalos? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it's not going to happen? Let's see where the majority lies in that. Anyway, this has been GatorEX. Have a nice day.